says you're live.
You have to look because now I'm not even on here.
Okay, so I can pull it up on the computer though.
Okay.
I have no idea if this is working now. Now I'm on my wife's phone and it's propped on top of my computer, and this is the third time we're trying this week. So this is action-packed. I'm trying to go to comments now on my computer, so just hang tight for a second. Oh, so Karen Emo says it looks better. Amir, it's working. Yay, not glitchy. All right, I don't know what's up with my internet, but my skin color is looking insane on there. Let's see, this one, that one. I don't know how to get to the live. All right, so let's do this. So first of all, let me run through my intro one more time because that would be awesome. For everyone that doesn't know this show, this is Sunday Night Teacher Talk, and the idea here is to help folks out with what they have going on coming into this week in the classroom, or with their own kids, or with college, or whatever, maybe you're a student, you're going into college. So we're used to unreliable internet in Australia. So here's how this works. I am merely the talking head on here. I'm giving advice. I'm trying to help folks out where I can, but all of you that are watching are also helping people out in the comments section. So if, I don't always know the answer. I don't teach math. I teach high school literature, and I have things that I know about, but then it really, really is about what kind of stuff can you share with these folks that are asking questions as well. We're at the point now where I can't get to every single question. I really, really try. But last week my wife said there was probably about 45 minutes worth of questions more on there after we did an hour and a half live feed. So I just don't have that type of time because all of a sudden my son's into football. I never watched football in my whole life. This is American football too. And so we are watching football every Sunday, even though I don't know what's going on and I have to keep Googling things, but I want to be a good dad. And I want to earn that Father of the Year thing. I don't want them to just give me the card. We know that I earned it. I see your shoulder in there. Babe, you're almost on the internet. I saw your eyeball in your cheek.
Stop.
Are you trying to look for that?
Yes.
You make the questions come up. All right, so before I jump into your questions and I want to talk real quick about where I was this week because it was really rad and I think people would benefit from it. Let's make sure we mute that. I'm going to answer a question from Teachers Connect. Teachers Connect is an online platform, right? I've talked about this before. Online platform looks like this. And you go on, they don't have a mobile app yet. They're working on it. But their website, you just go on and you answer questions, or you get answers for your questions, or you can post stuff on there that you think teachers would like. And so sometimes I post my YouTube videos on there, sometimes I answer questions and all that stuff. So it's just a nice place for just educators to go. So the question this week is a little bit long, but I'm going to go with it anyway. This is Ashley, just Ashley. I'm trying not to use people's full names because I don't know if they're into that. How do you incorporate vocabulary instruction at the high school level? I am a first-year teacher in a Title I district teaching special ed English for grades 10, 11, and 12. The majority of my students are below a 5th grade reading level. We're using the Springboard Close Reading Workshop for our reading instruction and supplement it with novels throughout the year. And I've heard some recommendations for making it more accessible for kids is front-loading vocabulary. The texts, inside the curriculum, highlight or underline vocabulary words, and the students are supposed to figure out. So I think we get it. But what I'm really wanting for is front load vocabulary effective? So here's the thing. I think I am reworking my entire vocabulary unit this year, right? I'm trying to figure out what's the best way that is going to actually help kids to remember vocabulary and make it meaningful. So it's not like this sort of rote memorization where you're just given a whole bunch of words, expected to remember them, when really you can just look crap up on your phone. But even looking it up on your phone I think when you really get to know a word, you start to use it in a way that is sort of honest to who you are, right? It's it comes out easier, and it's not something that's forced, and it's just something we've all had those papers in college where you look up on the online thesaurus and try and figure out like a way to use a word, and then you sound ridiculous because everybody knows that you don't use that word ever. So what I do is, for me this year, I still do words on the board. I know a lot of people aren't into this, but like I still do my words on the board, and I have my guys create flashcards, because what I want to do is create a way for students to hold on, this is very distracting. I keep seeing myself like 10 seconds after myself on the other screen. So the students, I want to give them a number of different ways to study. So we start with word on one side, definition on the other. I have pictures up on the board, and I usually relate a small story or example that's usually, I try and make it funny so that it's like something interesting for us to be a part of. Then I started using that Frere model that somebody sent me this year, and I got a bunch of interesting ideas. That's like when you like section the paper off into fours, and then I changed it a little bit to like, you have to rewrite the definition, you have to use the word in a sentence, you have to draw a picture of it or something, or give like an example of like, if you don't really want to draw, or if you can't clearly convey in a drawing what it is, you can just kind of explain what your drawing would look like. And then for the fourth one, I have, how would you explain this to a friend? So if your homie was like, yo, what does vicarious mean? Or like, what does volition mean? You would say, it pretty much means this. That's what I want them to use. So that's kind of what we're doing with it. And then during the week, I do everything from like explain it using slang. I explain it using pictures on the board, and you have to like pick which picture. So there's a lot kind of going on there. But for me, that's been the best way. And then I have new words every Monday, get 5 words on Monday, test on Friday. The next week you get 5 new words and you get the old words, and then that test is on that Friday, and then we reset and we keep doing that again and again. So and then I always do, you can retake tests. Almost every single test in my class you can retake. So if we take a test on Friday, you have until Tuesday afternoon to retake it for whatever reason, and that's the only makeup work that I do. I don't do any makeup work. I don't do any extra credit. Do we need another charger, buddy?
I think you should probably put that in.
Oh, snap. All right, and let's make sure that doesn't keep going. Ding, ding. We are a crack operation. This is almost as good as when we did the live feed on the beach.
Yeah.
In my blanket house. Yes, watch this. Oh my goodness gracious. There we go. All right, man. All right, let's jump into some questions because I want to get to a bunch of stuff. You can tell Noah I'm going to pick up 15 minutes. Tell Noah 15 minutes. Oh, man. Now we got people texting because I'm on the phone, and it's like the boys will probably come back and the dog's going to bark. All right, so let's jump into questions and help as many people out as we can. Zara J says, do you speak with your students about the subject of gender equality? And if so, how do you approach the subject? How is it received by your students? I do talk about this every single year. We talk about a lot of, so when we do Lord of the Flies, we talk about toxic masculinity, and this year we're going to read the book Speak, which is at a lower Lexile level. It's only like a 6th grade Lexile level, but and I know not everyone's in the Lexile levels, but I just put it out there anyway. Sorry, Cold and Sharp. But we talk about toxic masculinity. We talk about what it means to be a man. I teach all boys, and a lot of my guys, self-admittedly, right? This isn't just me making this stuff up. Would say that they don't have a positive role model around. And that doesn't mean all my boys. Some of them come from very, very good families. But it's about sort of deconstructing what you think it is to be a man. And then what I do is have the conversation. I do not try to, like, as much as I can, I'm sure I do this intuitively in some way, but like, I don't try and push them towards like what I think a man is, but it's like, what do you think a man is? And then like, what's good or not good about this? Like, so what do we need to talk about here? We talk about toxic masculinity in hip hop music, and we talk about things like, why are there no like homosexual hip hop artists, and why don't women hip hop artists get the love that male hip hop artists get all the time? And so I do talk about that, and here's why this works. It's really well sort of accepted by them, this conversation, because I'm not trying to school them, because I'm not trying to school them about the world or about what's right and what's wrong. I'm simply opening it up and making it a safe place for a conversation, and then letting them come to their own ends and to their own answers. And with my sort of gentle nudging to just sort of push the conversation forward, I think that that's a really interesting way to do that with your students, because then you're not like trying to force some kind of lesson or some sort of ideology down their throat. And, I think kids all want to do the right thing, and they're just like not always sure what the right thing is. And especially boys, they're just like nervous to like, sort of like be vulnerable and talk about that stuff. So in a safe space, it really works. The More You Grow is saying, I have a question you may help with. I hope so. I struggle with learning people's names in all aspects. Bro, that is my 100% jam. I want to get better at this so I can call my students by their name when I become a teacher. Any advice? So one, I don't learn most people's names, and I just make up nicknames for everyone. And let me tell you why this works for me. And I have another suggestion too. So if this isn't your jam, it's fine. But for those of you that it does work with, I like the personalization of that. I like calling kids weird stuff, and even the weirdest names, right? Like Business Casual and DJ Dirty Kev and Seafish and Kent, who's not even Kent. His name is something else, but his brother's name was Kent, and I had his brother first, so I just called him Kent. These kids, they end up loving the names, and then the kids that don't have names want names too, and it's like, why? Like his name's Frankenstein. He doesn't love that name, but they, initially, but it's just a way for me to sort of remember names. I don't like mispronouncing students' names. I mispronounce names all the time, and I think sometimes I just don't like have an ear for it. So that's kind of like how I sidetrack that situation. However, I have a seating chart, and just by looking at the seating chart, if I have this in a video somewhere, but like as I'm looking out, that's how I'm seeing all the students that are there. So like the kids are in the front of my seating chart, or in the front of the room, and then as the year goes on, I'm just looking down and looking at a kid, and you will learn them, and you'll get them. I mean, it might take you a month, but like just apologize and I just call guys homie or dude or bro or whatever, and then that kind of helps with that situation. What do you got, buddy? I know it's always the top one. You told me to stop asking if it was the top one.
Did.
Chantel Massey is saying, hey Reynolds, I've been watching your videos for a while now, and I think that you're great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Quick question. I'm about to teach my first lesson in my senior block of college, and I'm really nervous. Any tips? So, I mean, gosh, I remember this. I had a video. I put a video up on Instagram of the first lesson I ever taught, and I had to do it in college in front of other college students. I would say, try and make it as relatable as possible without trying to be cool, right? And so that's a heavy weight, right? And you're young, so you still have the ability to be cool. I have not been cool since 1995, but I think trying to take some sort of complex topic or whatever you're working on, and then connect it to something everyone already knows, right? So like we did a lesson, Ed and I did a lesson the other day on like the Odyssey as it compares to Fortnite, or you could do like how certain music connects to vocabulary words, and like how that like this song might explain this word, or you heard it in that song before. So I think just trying to make things relatable as possible is how you're going to win as a teacher anyway, because it's going to be something that the students already know, and you're connecting the dots from like this thing that they already know to this thing that they don't know, and then you're going to bring those two things together, and then they're going to go, oh, that wasn't so hard, and that's what you're really going for. And don't overcomplicate it. People try and make things way too complicated. One of the things we're working on that we want to start bringing to you all in videos is this concept that we came up with called bare bones teaching, which is like just making teaching not so complicated and difficult all the time. Shirley Martini, is that your real name? That's a fantastic, that's a great name, isn't it? It sounds fun. I teach 3 classes, 1 an EOC, so I have 3 preps. They are killing me. How can I give enough to those without the EOC, even with admin breathing down my neck? P.S. I'm a new teacher. So, gosh, last year I taught 9th grade and 10th grade English classes. So Lit 1 and Lit 2, and then some of them were like regular ed classes, and some of them were co-taught classes. And I had an elective, my history of hip hop elective, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's still like you still have to prep for it and get ready for it and all that stuff. I just think trying to sometimes make things so sometimes my students live off the benefit of the work being a little bit easier than it would be otherwise. It's just impossible sometimes when you have so many different kinds of kids in a class to make it even for everyone, right? So, and I think here's the trick, is that I can do this better now, but it's because I've been teaching for a long time, because I've changed my lessons so many times. I know now what like worked for the kids that struggled, or worked for the kids that were having a little bit of a hard, or like were more capable of doing what I was asking without a whole bunch of extra help. So because of that, I can pull from all those different areas and implement things in a different way. If you're a new teacher, just be patient. The admin can breathe down your neck all they want, because they are, I don't know, or maybe they're under some illusion that you're like a master teacher already, but just, keep finessing it and keep moving, the needle whichever way it needs to go as the year goes on. And then here's the important thing: take notes. What worked, what didn't work, what worked for like the kids that needed more help, what did not work for the kids that, don't need as much help. Like when you're making all those notes, because the year's going to blow by before you know it, it's going to be June, and then it's going to be August, and you're going to be like, oh my God, what did I do in September? So just by making simple notes on your lesson plans, on your unit plans, or whatever, it's going to help you to remember those things. And that's how I would go into it. I would go into the year as if it were an experiment. No one's going to not learn, right? You're not going to let that happen. You're going to still teach them, and they're still going to learn stuff, but it is an ongoing experiment. And I think teaching should always be an ongoing experiment. As I was hanging out with my friend Kate, the sleepy teacher, this weekend, she was saying one of the reasons she started a YouTube channel was because she felt like her teaching was getting a little dry, and she wanted to be able to reflect and to kick it up another notch, and that forced her to do that. So just keep moving that needle and practicing and experimenting, and then taking notes that next year you're better, and the next year you're better, and the next year you're better, and that's how you'll work that out. Amir is saying, this is Amir Williams, he's a student of mine, a former student of mine that I still see all the time, saying, starting Tuesday, I'm going to be the Philadelphia reading coach for kids that are 5 through 12. What do you think are the best ways to an engaging tutor? I want to go into this really strong. So I would say, first of all, if anyone out there, if anyone watching this teaches kids that are from 5 to 12, because I gave Amir advice this summer when he was teaching at a summer camp, and it was not that good of advice. And then some other lady emailed me, and she was like, hey, your advice wasn't so good. Here's better advice. And her advice was way better. So if someone out there can hit, Amir up, like, let him know. Maybe you have an answer. But I would say more than anything, brother, like, just being yourself and being willing to meet kids where they are, right? So a lot of times teachers have this idea of where they think kids should be, and then when they're not there, we get like all pissed off, or we're like, you guys should know this already. Like, but I don't, so let's start there. And then that's it. And then just be like your fun, kind self, and I think you'll find that you'll really, really win when you're not like dogging kids or getting mad about stuff.
I would say find out something about that child that you can connect on a personal level. That's what Brody's tutor did to him, and it changed the whole dynamic.
Okay. You realize everyone can hear you, right?
Oh, I don't know how loud they can hear me.
So my wife is saying, like, find out something about that kid. So Brody has a reading tutor this year, and she started asking him about stick bots and about Fortnite. Stick bots are these toys that my kids play with, and it changed everything for Brody. Like, he went in like talking with her about it, and she was like watching videos about it on YouTube. So there was a point of connection there, and I just think that always wins as well.
And they only spent about 5 minutes a day. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't a big thing, but just it made it fun for him.
That was a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. You're so helpful. Joanne Markov, I see that name all the time. What are your 9th grade texts? I know that you do Odyssey, Of Mice and Men, Lord of the Flies. Is that it, or are there others? So I also do, depending on the class, depending on the year, Fahrenheit 451, Persepolis, which I don't do as much anymore because there's so much like other knowledge you have to read that book, like knowing who all these people are in history, knowing where all these events are in history, knowing a lot of stuff. We do, what what else do I do?
You're gonna do speak.
I'm doing speak this year.
I don't know anything else.
And poetry. I do a lot of poetry, but I do poetry for kids that don't like poetry. So I don't do like any classic poetry except for like some E.E. Cummings stuff. And this year we're going to write children's books again using Storybird, and that is one because I did a paid partnership with them and they like hooked it up, and so I have access to that. And two, it's because I think it's a really good platform and it's a really good way to teach kids like plot development and how a basic story works and to revisit that in a fun way. And watching high school kids read children's books is just hilarious. So Rebecca is asking, any advice on how to encourage students to improve their mental and emotional well-being? I think,
Time.
gosh, I just think, first of all, just being patient, right? Being patient with kids, and then not being willing to be vulnerable yourself, right? If you are not willing to be vulnerable with your students, they're not, chances are, going to be vulnerable with you. And you don't have to tell them all of your stuff. You don't have to tell them about like every fight they have with their boyfriend or girlfriend or something like that. But you know, if I have a student that has a parent that passed away, I make sure that I share that. If I have a student that has someone that you know that has learning difficulties or learning differences, and it's like really hard on their family, like maybe they have someone that has like autism or Asperger's, and that's like that is something that they're struggling to be a good brother or sister for, or brother in my case, in my school. But I can share my own story with stuff like that. And so I just think that that's the best way to kind of do it. And then you're sort of leading by example and saying like, look, this is important. You're reminding them of them and noting it. And then this is how I kind of walked through that as well. Like, and it takes a lot of courage, and you're doing the right thing, and just that constant re-encouragement, and then not putting them on any kind of timetable, right? Like, you know this. Some of us and some people in the world get things early on, right? Some people don't. They don't. And so and I'm not saying about me that like I get things faster than anyone else, because chances are I don't. But you just want to let that kid kind of work it out at their pace. And if for the next 4 years you're working it out with them, then it takes the next 4 years or beyond, right? So just be patient with them. Stephen Herms is saying, can you come to Sydney? Yes, Stephen Herms, I can come to Sydney. Why don't you shoot me an email and we'll figure it out. My email is realrapwiththe.Reynolds, because it's from the old channel, at gmail.com, by the way. And it's usually linked underneath all of my videos. Kimberly Wallback, I know that name too, is saying, what is the best way to support emotional and autistic support students? I think, so here's one way that I've done that. And I met this really, really lovely woman. I was in San Diego for the week, and I was at a conference there where I spoke at, it was like a lot of different folks, but primarily the folks that I was meeting were either in HR and they were hiring first-year teachers and working with first-year teachers, or they were in special education. And so I met this really lovely woman who works in special education, who has a son who's autistic, and she like lived in Australia and then had to like move here to like get her son the services that he needed. And then she was saying that, and so I'm not saying her name or anything, so if you happen to watch this, like I would never put you on blast, because I don't know that you're interested in that. She was saying though that her son has a hard time making friends, and so that he doesn't have any friends. And I thought, you know, the hard part for me for that is if that kid went to my school, I would ensure that he had friends. And the way that I do that is, because I find kids all the time that have no friends, that are like sitting alone in the lunchroom, behind the wrestling mats, behind the stage, in a corner somewhere, sitting in the bathroom the whole period, like just milling around outside the bathroom, pretending they're busy doing something, when in reality they're not busy doing anything. And it's heartbreaking to me. So the way that I combat that is, all these years in, I have all these dudes that eat lunch with me every single day, and I send them downstairs. They get sent on a mission to look for students that don't have anyone to sit with. And then they don't make them feel weird about it. They go, hey, we're all eating up in Reynolds' room. Do you want to go up and eat with us? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Or they'll say like, yo man, if you don't want to sit down here, like Reynolds' room is open. You can just like put your earbuds in, watch a show, like read a book, work on your homework, whatever. And so eventually, all those kids end up coming up and sitting in my room. And then my job is to, again, connect the dots. So I'll go over to that kid and I'll just ask him something innocuous about himself. Like, hey, do you play Fortnite? Do you watch, do you watch football? And then once I know something about them, I'll figure out who else likes that thing too. And then I'll go, oh, that's really dope because my man DJ Dirty Kev is real into that game also. Or he really likes Martin Scorsese movies also. And then that naturally links them together. And my guys that have been around for a while, like Kev and Joe and Aki and all these dudes and Kyle, they all know that like this is the jam. Like we are trying to pull these kids in so they have a place to be, and it's like my room becomes like the island of misfit toys. And so that's how I bring everyone in. Or I will have a student that's having a particularly hard time and is not making friends, and I will assign other dudes. I'll show them the picture of that kid, and I'll say, when you see them in the hall, all I want you to do is just say, yo, what's up, bro? Like, here's his name. Yo, what's up? That's it. And then just do that whenever you see them in the hallway. Nothing special. You're not treating them like they're a special case or anything like that. Yo, what's up, man? And that takes kids from being invisible to being visible. And that makes all the difference sometimes. And so that's just one way that I like to support those like students that are feeling like they're outliers, is letting them know they belong. Because once a kid believes in themselves and believes that they belong, everything else just gets easier from there, because now you can actually work with them and connect with them.
I don't know the last one that you did because I was taking care of kids stuff.
Okay. Sorry, we're trying to make sure that we do these all, but not so secret wife had to not so secretly sneak away, and there goes the girls. Kimberly Wallbeck. Oh, that was the last one.
Oh, okay.
So
Do the next whatever the next one.
Storm P is saying, I'm trying to decide whether teaching elementary level or high school level teaching. What is your opinion on each of the professions as a career? So I just think, so here's what I would do. It doesn't matter what I think. I mean, I could have, now that I love teaching high school, but I like it for a reason. I like having higher level conversations. I like the idea that 14 years old or so is like when you're trying to figure out your story, who you are, what you're about. You are trying new stuff. You're getting mohawks and listening to music that your parents hate. I like that world because I think you're trying to figure out who you are, as opposed to the person that your parents kind of like navigated you to be till this point. And that's not to take anything away from parents. It's just like, you want to rebel when you're at a certain age. That being said, I really think I could have taught younger kids, and I would have absolutely loved it also. I think like fourth, fifth grade would have been the jam. That meant a lot to me, like reading things like My Side of the Mountain and the projects that we did and who I was at that age is like, that sort of work is attractive to me as well. Here's what I would do if I were you. For anyone that's trying to figure out what grade you should teach, hit up schools, email teachers and say, hey, I go to this college. Would you mind if, or I'm in high school and I want to be a teacher. Would you mind if I just came in and sat in your room for the day? And then just go sit in the room for the day and check it out. And so that will give you a sense of like whether or not you can see yourself being there and whether or not you can see yourself working with these students. And that's going to be, I think, what tells is like the piece for you. Slim here?
Yeah, but Jude is a potty, so they're...
Oh, all right. So now the dogs are going to bark because Jude has to come in and go to the bathroom. And I don't know why I told everyone that, but I did.
Yeah.
Next question. Joanne Markov is saying, what sort of technology do you have for your students? Laptops for everyone, or just a few, or none at all? So our school is 1-to-1, but only 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So in 9th grade is not 1-to-1. We have laptop cards. Here goes Jude. Hi, Jude. He's like one of the most adorable kids I've ever seen. So so we have laptop carts, and they sometimes work, they sometimes don't. If someone didn't plug it in, it's an issue. So I don't use them too much unless it's for a specific lesson that I let the rest of the teachers know, like, hey, I need these for 2 weeks so we can work on this. Other than that, I got a Promethean board this year, which is really, like, I thought I knew how to use it, but to be honest, their online content is not very good. Like their videos on how to use their product are not very good. And I actually thought about like reaching out to them and saying like, hey, why don't we work together and I can use your like I'll make videos for you so that people know what the heck they're using on this thing. Bliss Poetry is saying, I teach 10th grade English and my classes are mixed. Level 4, there's a lot of running behind me going on today. Level 4 is a bit. It's like when you're trying to be sneaky, but you're just not so sneaky. My classes are mixed. Level 4s. How many people are in here?
Just keep going.
It's like an army of kids. And the level 1's way down below grade level. How do I challenge the highest level but not lose the lower level students? So, in 10th grade English. I think the way that you do that is, so here's two things I'm thinking of. One, I always use guided notes, right? I never have everyone write all of anything that's on the board. And kids that have a harder time doing that, I just give them the notes sometimes, so they have them both on their desk and they copy from this one to this one, so they don't have to keep looking up at the board, which is hard for some kids to have learning differences. Two, I think trying to get those kids independent reading books that are on their level. And so spending a couple of days a week, even if it's one day a week, where you have like an extended reading time that's quiet. Let your students sit wherever they want in the room. Let them read whatever book they want, so long as it's closer to their level. So your lower level reading guys and girls, you would have like appropriate books for them. And then the other kids, an appropriate book for them. And then you could use stuff like, what's that thing that Colby Sharp, Accelerated Reader? You could take quizzes on there. You could have them do a project on there or something. No. I'm saying Accelerated Reader, though, has, the thing I do like is they make comprehension questions for all the books, and it's just a check for understanding, so that students, you know that they read it and you know that they understood what was going on. The rest of Accelerated Reader I can't really get down with, but that is just one way that you're able to do that, so that at least a couple times a week kids are reading something that they're interested in and that is good for them. And the best way to become a better reader is just by just by reading more, right? It's like if you want to get muscles, you do more push-ups, and it's the same kind of thing. What's your advice for substitute teachers? Prayer, I think, is the most important thing. I substitute taught 3 days in the same class, and I hated it. Now, other people that I know have just stayed with it, and they've had a lot of success in the classroom. Like they've taught at a school where they like student or substitute taught the whole time they were in college, and they made like all this extra these connections with people, and they ended up getting jobs through it. So I think just remembering that you're not the teacher, that you're there to kind of keep the peace and keep kids on point. For me, and this might be the wrong answer, I think not taking it too seriously, right? Like don't take everything as like a kid that's trying to come at you, or they're acting that way because of you. Like just being like, guys, look, the teacher's out for the day. Here's the work, and I'm going to come around and help you with it as I can. But and then setting your expectations for the day, and then that's it. I think just being yourself, and then walking around and trying to connect with students, whether it's about the work, whether it's about something else, is going to build those connections. And the more you sub at that school, the better and better that's going to get for you. Where are we looking? Michelle Williams, teacher, is saying, Reynolds, I teach, that's really what it says. I teach an all boys drama 9 class this year, approaching it with character development edge. Any book recommendations on toxic masculinity? I would say, so not just books, but there's on Netflix, there was a movie called I think it's called The Mask We Wear, or The Mask They Wear, or something like that. That is all about toxic masculinity, and there's a ton of good conversations that you can have there. There's also, if you go on, so I'm going to send you down a rabbit hole. I have playlists of all of my videos. If you go into the Lord of the Flies playlist, there's several videos. A TED Talk in there. There's a talk about like toxic masculinity in hip hop, and it like explores that and talks to different people and stuff like that. So those are 2 really good ways that you could kind of go down that. And then I think toxic masculinity shows up all over the place, from Of Mice and Men to Lord of the Flies to this. Like I said, we're reading Speak this year. It's everywhere, so you can always take it in that direction. Like, I just think books are people teach a lot of books for very specific reasons. I just think you can pull out all kinds of interesting stuff through any book, right? Just like dig a little bit deeper and say, hey, look, do you notice how they said that, or why they did this, or like the fact that like Curly's wife is never actually given a name and she's just talked about like she's like a slut all the time. And so I just think that you can, maybe that's not the focus of that book, but it's totally like something you could just say, let's stop, because sometimes toxic masculinity exists right under, it's not something we talk about, or it's so normal that it just flies under the radar. So let's just stop and pause, whether it's music or television or books or magazine, as if anyone reads magazines anymore. You are like stopping and pausing it even in those normal moments to say, let's see what's going on here. Rachel 27171 says, Shakespeare is not, in capital letters, going well with my 10th graders. We are acting out no fear and stopping to watch clips and discuss, but half of my class is not invested. Tips on making it better, getting through it faster. So I'm interested in what play you're doing, but we read Merchant of Venice, which a lot of my guys don't want to read. They really like the Antonio Shylock piece because it's two dudes and it's about lending money and cutting people's chests apart and stuff like that. But there's this whole like marriage girl part, and like no one wants to read for the girls, and they're so weird about it because they're like, bro, I'm not reading this girl part. So I think with that, I read with them. I think one of the other things is I play music behind certain parts. So if it's like romantic, I just play the jam from Karate Kid 2. What is that jam? Story of Love. Whatever, that song. I play music behind all kinds of scenes to make it more dramatic, to make it more silly, and then just not taking it so seriously. Like realizing that kids just aren't going to be interested in Shakespeare all the time until you're about halfway or 3/4 of the way done, and then sometimes they're just like, all right, this is actually like getting pretty good because we had to like get into it. And then I have a whole lesson that I teach about like, why does Shakespeare speak that way? Because that drives kids crazy. Like, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Good work, you helped me out there. But I talk about, that was 500 years ago, bro. Like, if you think of 500 years from now, Snoop is going to make any sense to anyone. If you think anyone's going to listen to a Snoop Dogg song and know what the hell shizzle my dizzle means, like, I don't even know what the hell that means. I might have said something inappropriate. I don't even know about it. But it's, with slang, with, like, that kind of, like, culturally relevant pedagogy, like, which is such a big buzzword right now, I think you can make that stuff culturally relevant like crazy, because it's still just people and life, and there's so many connection points to your students' lives through any Shakespeare play that they read. But it's teaching them sometimes through the lens of something else to help them explain or understand like what is going on in Shakespeare.
And there's a video on it that you...
Yeah, and I made a whole video on like why I teach Shakespeare, why I think it's important and stuff like that. So if you just go through my videos, if you go to the little like magnifying glass at the top, type in Shakespeare, some stuff will pop up. Jack, oh crap, Jack. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but Frisicario? Whoo, all right. Jack, you know how I do it. Wondering what your process is with commenting on students' formal papers. How do you balance giving thorough, personalized advice without spending hours in the day before or after school on corrections? So I think there's a couple of ways to do that. I think one, knowing what you're looking for, right? So like there's very specific things. Kids sometimes write so poorly that you can spend hours nitpicking every single thing, right? And so I just think what you're trying to do is rig them for success. So you read a paper and maybe the first draft, you're really looking for these like 5 things. And whenever you see those things, I sometimes have just a key at the top so the kids know like double underline means this, or one underline means this, or brackets means this, or these 2 letters mean this. So you're just you're creating a shorthand so that you're tearing through the paper, you're noting these things, and then having the kids know what the key is so you can talk about it. And then you're not just hitting, you're not, what you don't want to do is like tell the students that these are all the things that you're doing wrong, because it's just like, it just destroys people, and it's just so much more difficult to kind of like get them to want to do better when it's like, hey, these are the things that you're doing wrong. Like overall, I see where we're going with this, and I appreciate you doing it. These are the things I need you to work on right now. And then you scale from there. Then the next time it's like, all right, now we're going to look at these sorts of things. And I think just scaling like that, just making very simple language that you can write on there really, really benefits students. And then you end up not doing it for your whole life.
Summer Tate, and she kind of has 3. Start with the top.
Okay. Summer Tate, I see that you have like 3 questions. I'm going to get through them. I have a student who cuts herself in, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. Who cuts herself and is self-loathing and is dealing with trauma. I'm meeting with her and the counselor tomorrow to discuss her behavior in class. Any suggestions? Her friends have confused.
No.
Wait.
Read the second one.
Her friends have confused. Second one. Her friends have confided in me, and I have brought their concerns to the counselor. She's also a fantastic reader, college level, and writer, but will not apply herself. So here's the thing with that, Summer. I've dealt with this any number of times, and none of them are the same. So like anything I say, so I'm going to try to make my advice as applicable as possible because these stories are all so different. But the fact of the matter is that there's a story behind that, right? Like students, unless there are outlier students that have some sort of like something going on mentally that like is like they need medication for, or it's not something that you're going to be able to just kind of like talk them out of. They need like professional help. But a lot of times I have met students that have been cutters. It's good that you report it. First of all, you should always do that, because if something happens, God forbid, like you will be held liable, and maybe you don't have you don't have all the resources. Like the counselor will have resources that they can connect that student with. But I just think that all kids that do anything, whether they are poorly behaved in class, whether they are mean to other kids, whether they're bullies, whether they're getting bullied, everybody has a story. And when you find out what their story is, it makes it more understandable, but it doesn't make it okay, right? It almost never makes it okay, right? But it makes you go, all right, that makes a little bit more sense. Because you don't know, in a world where like, I forget what the statistic is, but it's like, is it 1 in 4 kids are sexually molested at some point in their life? Like that's some heavy shit. Or kids that are 1 in 5 are dyslexic and then like just feel dumb and are tired of showing up in school because they're tired of sucking all the time. It's if you can help kids get to that root problem, and if you never, ever, ever give up on them, and if you try to meet them where they are without any judgment. So what I mean by that is, one of the things I've learned about being married is sometimes your attention is better than your advice. So just sitting with a kid, someone's hurting themselves, someone doesn't like themselves, someone is loathing, let them eat lunch with you, like every day if you can handle that, and just give them a safe space to just be them. And then just having that safe place to be can literally change people's lives and give them a sense of like that they're not just a waste, or they're not just a piece of crap. Like they are someone, and someone cares about me, and they don't care if I come in and complain about my same problem every single day. They always listen to me. That goes so far. And I think that's, for me, like the number one thing that you can do. And you're not always like their cheerleader, right, necessarily, like telling them like, you have so much to live for, you can do this, you can do that, you have so much potential. It's like, sometimes it's just saying, I hear you, it really sucks that you feel like that, and I'm really sorry for you. And then another thing I started doing this year with students that I have that are really suffering with depression is I reached out to a company called the 5 Minute Journal, and they sent me a bunch of free journals. You don't need the free journals, you can do this other ways too, but I have my guys write like things that they're grateful for today, because I really think that the practice of gratefulness helps you you get so entrenched in the way that you're thinking and how miserable the world is and how miserable you are and how you're a piece of shit and you don't really matter. And if you can get kids to start practicing being grateful for things, I think that can sometimes rewire our thinking. And I know that I do that in the morning, and it really, really is helpful to me. So those are the couple of things I'm saying. And can you do me a favor? Can you hit me up and let me know, like through email, what works with that? And I don't have to know anyone's personal information, but I just want to know if there's another way, like if you try that and it works, what maybe can I help you with? If it doesn't work, what maybe can I help you with? And if you just feel like you have enough support through the school, then that's fine too. You don't even have to hit me up. But if you need that resource, I'd be happy to be that for you. Joanne Markov is saying, have you ever done the Romeo and Juliet graphic novel? I've not. I didn't even know it existed. I've used the Odyssey graphic novel for students that were like reluctant readers. And I love the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, but probably because it came out when I was like right out of high school, and the soundtrack is the best. What else am I looking at here? Ashley Zabaska is saying, Reynolds, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I don't know anything about YouTubing. Do you have any tips or suggestions? Ashley, I just did a whole presentation about this, like why all teachers should be on social media, because it is the best. I would say, first, just be yourself. Look, your ordinary is somebody else's extraordinary. You do all kinds of stuff in your classroom that is like, that someone out there is going to connect with, right? So like most YouTubers are young women, but there are a few of us outliers, right, that are like older folks that are doing things. And I just think that I'm not any better or worse than anyone else. But some people might identify with me because I'm a 41-year-old dude, right, that teaches in the kind of school that I teach in with the kind of students that I teach. Whereas somebody might watch, Kate the Sleepy Teacher and be like, oh, there's a woman, and I don't know if Kate shares her age. I think she's like 57 or something like that. But like, Kate might have someone that connects with her, or Darren, or Fernanda, or Bridget from Lettered Classroom. Like, you can be the connection piece for other people, so that they know they're not alone and that they can do this also. And I think if you're trying to start a channel, so you can empower others, there's no wrong way to do that, right? Just put your camera, turn it on, make it look at yourself, and edit out all the ums. That's what I do. Jay Dobson, I know that name too. Further on from Ashley's question, how do you approach YouTube and getting permission from schools, students, and parents? I have just a real quick letter that I send out to parents every year that says like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is why I do it. I'm looking to empower your students and change the narrative of what it looks like to be a young black male student in West Philadelphia, and help other teachers out along the way. And so like, this is what I'm trying to do. I do monetize my videos because if I don't monetize them, they don't push it. And I'm also trying to, do a whole bunch of other things, like pay for private school for my son because my public school sucks. So we just had that conversation real quick. That's a whole nother story for I don't know what time. But so that's all I do is just send out a thing, and I've never ever had a parent not sign it. Parents love it because it gives them insight into their child's life that they would never ever otherwise have.
Wait, you didn't ask, do you go to administration?
Oh, I did go to admin and just told them like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Is it cool? And my previous principal that was there when I started it had zero problems with it. Like, thought it was cool. He doesn't watch my channel or anything. Just saying. Help me out. Lightning Storm Fights. I think I know that name. We talked. I think you were on here before. I had a student that wasn't doing their work and drew Bloods versus Crips on their notebook. I took the paper, but what would you have done with it in that situation? I would say, so first of all, are they really like in a gang, or are they just writing stuff to like get attention in class? So that's a conversation. Second, it's like, I would pull that kid aside and just have a real conversation. Say, what's the story behind this? Like, why are we writing this down? And like, what's your interest in that? And then just, sometimes it's just starting. You're not always sure what to do until you know the full story. So it's like just about asking kids and talking to them about what it is why they're writing something down, and then letting dudes know that, like, you know, through that conversation, I would very clearly say, like, look, we can't. This is school property. Like you can't rep your gang in school, because you're gonna get in trouble, and I'm gonna get in trouble. And I always blame it on my kids. I always tell people, look, man, you can't do stuff like that because I got kids and they gotta eat. Do you not want my kids to eat? You want them to starve to death? Because they're cute, and I paid extra money for that. So, like, you're actually costing me more money. So I think sometimes having ridiculous conversations about something, and sometimes just, like, not being shy and having a real conversation with a student and, like, talking through things is really, really beneficial. Because they get to realize that you're someone that they can trust. What do you got, buddy? Stephanie Henry, my old friend Stephanie Henry, is asking, one of my children struggles with reading, math, and one struggles with social, emotional stuff. It seems children of teachers get a bad rap if they struggle just because their mom is a teacher. Thoughts? Yep.
Oh,
so
yeah.
my son, so reading, so he's dyslexic, and he has any number of other, like, sort of learning differences with reading specifically, and I am a reading teacher. But, you know, I just think, I don't know if it's my age or what, but somewhere around 40, I just stopped giving a crap. Like, I give, like, less shits now than ever, and you just love your kid. You know, so, and I'm not saying this to school you at all, Stephanie. You know me better than that. But, like, I would say just focus on your child, and the hell with what everybody else thinks. There's zero ability for you to control that, and I don't have the skills to, like, give my child what he needs all the time, right? So, like, when we talk about, like, looking for a private school for our son, which my school will not fund, they will not give me what I need in my school, they will not give us the help that we need. So we are,
and we can't even sue in New Jersey.
And we can't sue in New Jersey because it's too difficult. And I'm not even the kind of guy that sues for anything, but I need my child to get what he needs. And so part of that is, like, Wilson tutoring, and that takes, like, 4 years to go through that whole program. And I don't have 4 years. Like, we're this time bomb's ticking. And so my job now is to try and figure out a way to hustle and get my son into a private school that's going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. But if that's what my kid needs, then that's what I'm going to do. And I just can't worry about what anybody else is thinking or feeling about my situation, because I'm trying to buckle down and get my kid through life in the best possible way that I can do it.
I will also say this. I think
Are you now? You speak up.
No, I'm not going on.
Because you love this topic.
I do, because
I'm just kidding.
It's really difficult having a child that struggles and having a parent that's a teacher, right? You think that we're going to be perfect. I don't do homework a lot of times. I modify homework. I do what I think is necessary. Part of that is, I think, because you are a teacher, and I just go, yeah, this is just not. I'm just not going to do it, or not necessary. I think you have to do what's best for your kid, and you know your kid best. Like, that's it. That's the bottom line.
That was some good, not so secret advice over there.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I feel like some of these questions we could have we could have an hour-long conversation about. But want me to do it? Sing a song? Well,
yes. Yeah, because Mrs. Calls Camper and
I believe the children are our future.
Stop.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Come on, what's the next line?
I'm reading.
Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Come on, baby. This is getting ridiculous.
I know. Well, Kate's like chatting it up. That's what
Oh,
happens.
Kate, the sleepy teacher's in there chatting it up.
Okay.
What's up, Kate?
All right, here you go. I think that's one. Mr. Reynolds.
This top one?
Yeah.
Empress of the Cosmos. Holy crap. Now that's a name. Good work. Empress of the Cosmos is saying, hey, Mr. Reynolds, I teach 9th grade U.S. history. I normally introduce new material with the PowerPoint and discussion. Any ideas on how to intro new material that will keep students engaged? I think, so one, I always say, like, I think making relevant content to your students, like connecting it to something that they already know, is great. Connecting it to their life. So, like, I do journals every day to connect what we're going to read to something that they've already gone through or something they're going to go through, to make it relevant. I think sometimes just having a conversation, like, hey, do you guys ever think about this? Do you ever wonder about this? Or, like, why, the government does this, or why, whatever it is. And, I love shows like that. Sometimes, like, look, history documentaries can be super boring. And even there's history documentaries that, like, history people like, I don't know, Ken Burns, or like you would watch like 17 hours based on like the Vietnam War or something like that, and then you get down with that. But then there's a reason they make shows like Drunk History, because that shit is funny, man. Like it's like kind of the same story in a sense, but it's just way out of pocket. And so I think sometimes just trying to like make something fun or magical or interesting in some kind of weird way could be a really good hook for kids. Everyone ducks, but they don't really duck all. They don't like fully commit to the duck. So I just think that that's a really fun way to kind of do that, or pull in some kind of popular culture about it. Like, how does what you're learning connect to popular culture now, and then that's your in for a lot of stuff. One, Betancourt. I like how much time I spend trying to figure out people's names. But Juan, I apologize. I can't. I can never pronounce anyone's name. What do you think about eliminating phones during school hours? So, Juan, I teach 9th grade, and I have a whole thing I do on phones. So, one, over on the other side of my room, I went to this place called Harbor Freight in Jersey, which is like it's essentially like they make like the same stuff that Home Depot does, but like the way cheaper version. And so I get this long, like 4-foot strip of plugs for like $8 there or something like that. I plug it in my wall, and you can charge your phone over there. I'm not responsible for keeping an eye on it or anything like that, but if you plug it in, you're not allowed to touch it. It has to just stay over there. That's just an agreement that we have. And there are no repercussions if you go over there, because guess what? You're not going to do it, because that's what I told you to do. And so then I tell kids, like, look, if I see your phone out, I'm going to take it. But every once in a while, like if someone's phone goes off in the middle of class, or it rings, or it dings, or they get a tweet, or whatever it is, I just go, yo, do me a favor, just turn it off. And it's not a big deal. I just like to make things like not into a big deal a lot of times, because it just helps. Because kids are used to someone like coming down on them about stuff. And if you can just be cool about it, be like, bro, just turn it off real quick. I think also when kids have phones in class and they are doing stuff like if they're checking it on the low, now it depends on the kid. If I've told you before, every once in a while, I'll just be like, put it away. If I see it again, something disastrous is going to happen. But if I've seen it again, it's like, I need the phone. And then I count down 3, 2, 1. If you don't give it to me, I like write it up. I get someone else I pull somebody bigger than me, like Miss Cho, in, and she comes in and she handles the situation. But that almost never happens. And then there's a couple of things. If it's the first time I took it, I'll just put it in my desk for the period. I give it to you at the end. Or maybe I'll hold on to it till lunch, and then I'll give it to you then. Or at the end of the period, I hide it in my bookshelves, and then you have to stand in the hallway while I do so. The class can tell you hot or cold. And if you find your phone at the end of 30 seconds, then you get it back. If you don't get it back in 30 seconds, then I keep it till the end of the day. But that is the risk that you run when you do stuff like that in class. So I think just making it not a big deal and just kind of handling it and letting kids know, like, this is why you can't be on your phone right now, because you're addicted. And I know that because I'm addicted to my phone. And that's just how I run that. So Amy Russell is saying, how do you overcome setbacks despite being exhausted? Amy Russell, that's a great question. How are you, Amy Russell? I feel like I haven't seen your name on there in a while. I think that self-care, so let me run it down for you like this. I was going to San Diego for some insane reason. And if you go on my Instagram, you can see this. The wife and I decided only a few days before going to San Diego that we were going to make 20 TVs out of cardboard. Then we were going to put letters in them that were built out. Then we were going to do social media signs on them and all this crazy stuff. Then I have to then I teach 2 days. I leave immediately for the airport. I fly to San Diego. I get there in the middle of the night. I got to get up before the sun to go to this place and set up all this stuff and get all this stuff ready. And by the middle of that day, I thought I was getting sick because I was just running on empty. And I already knew whenever that happens that I need to stop and just do something for myself. And maybe that's several days of something for myself. And to me, that's not just sitting down. It's like running, swimming, riding a bike, doing some sort of exercise, like meditating, praying more. And so like what I'm doing is like filling up the tank so that I have something to give when I get there. Just barreling through it, just doing the work, to me, never works. It is an illusion that I think is going to work, but in reality, I have to like take the night off, go out to dinner with my wife, just watch Jeopardy and have a beer, or like whatever it is. I'm not like running myself rampant. I have to fill that tank back up, or it's no one's gonna do it for me. Not even you, wife. Even though you're pretty good. Go Ministry is saying, who inspires you? That's a good question. I would say, this is like, these are such, like I don't know how different my answers are than everyone else. I'm a Jesus-y guy, so like there's that. Like I don't talk about that a lot on my channel. But I think, you know, sort of like Mr. Rogers, who's another, like one of my greatest inspirations of all time, like, and Saint Francis, who I have a big picture of on my wall over there, said like preach always and when necessary use words. So I try and I try to like convey my faith through my actions, right? And instead of like having to talk about them. And the reason for that is I think it alienates people sometimes. I'm not afraid to talk about it and I don't shy away from it, but I just think that like loving people, I think your vibe attracts your tribe. And so that's how I do that. I think Father Gregory Boyle is like one of the greatest human beings that ever existed. And he has a great book called Tattoos on the Heart that I read whenever I'm having a bad day. And it literally, if I'm having a shit day and I read it at lunch, I am a better teacher in the afternoon. Rafe Esquith is the greatest teacher, I think, of all time. He is fantastic, and all of his books inspire me. And then I'd say my wife and my kids, really, and that seems like such a basic answer, but, you know, my wife and I have been together. Are you putting your hand up? Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. My wife and I have been together for 23 years, and we are like, this is like a hard-won relationship. This shit didn't just like start out easy or end easy. It's not easy.
What are you saying? I'm not easy?
I'm saying I'm not easy.
That's the truth.
But like the camaraderie that we have and the love that we have for one another is like, it's like scar tissue at this point. Like we've fought for it, and my wife inspires me to be better. And I'm also at a place where like when she gives me advice, typically she's right because she knows me a lot of times better than I know myself. And I think the same is true vice versa. And my kids just make me want to be a better person. My own children, like I want all this great stuff to kind of happen because I want the best life I can give my kids, especially because my son doesn't have the easiest. He's dealing with stuff that's harder than a lot of other kids, and so I want to make it the best possible experience for him. So I will work my ass off every day for my kids. Could you share a list of YouTube teachers? I can.
I think the best way is to just search on YouTube. Like,
yeah, so I think real quick, like, but my top, like the people that we kind of came up with were like Pocketful Primary and Lettered Classroom and Darren and Kate the Sleepy Teacher. And I think
Apples and Genuine.
Apples and Tiaras and Genuine Teaching, and these are all people I know also. One Fab Teacher is like one of my favorite human beings that exists online. She's so lovely. And then on Instagram, I think, you know, Instagram can be equally as impressive sometimes. And there's tons of really fun, great people over there as well. Like Peace Love Parker is the jam. Tukel for Middle Schools in both of those places. She's fantastic. Who's my other homie that I like? Chris Peck, the hipster teacher. That guy is fire all the time.
Peace Love Parker.
I said that already. Are you not paying attention to anything that I'm saying?
I'm reading questions.
Oh, you're doing a good job too. I appreciate you.
I know.
Rebecca Waltz is asking, what's up, Rebecca? I don't know if I emailed you recently. Something. Your picture is sticking out in my head for some reason. Because I know I've seen you on here before also. But Rebecca is saying, I signed up to be a homebound teacher with one of my students this week who has a lot of anxiety. I will be taking his work to him and and helping him with his assignments. Any tips? I think, first of all, Rebecca, that is awesome, and I love that. I would,
even allows that.
the fact that your school even allows that is like remarkable. So I would go in and be regular, like not being like. So when I think of like after my mother passed away, everybody that came to visit was like, "How are you? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? How's it going?" And it was like, God, like you don't want to be a special case. I liked when people just came in and they were like, "How's it going? All right." And then, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you interested in? Like talking about regular stuff. That's what I think suppresses the anxiety or alleviates it a lot of times. Not someone like just being. No one wants to be a special case, and people that do, that's a whole nother issue. They do exist, but like, just regular stuff. Like, hey man, I'm really actually glad that I get to do this. Like, I'm honored that you would let me come to your house and like that I get to be the person that gets to see you one-on-one, because I don't get to see you one-on-one in school all the time. So this is actually like pretty dope. I get to like see where you live and stuff like that. Like, and then maybe like I'm a treat guy, so like maybe like, hey, what do you like? Like, what's your favorite snack in the world? And then maybe like bring a snack and like, so it's not like this so like formulaic of an idea. Like you're just kind of like hanging out and talking and like doing work together and eating snacks. Like I would just make it like that, because I think that's the kind of vibe to me that would like help alleviate that anxiety, because that kid's got to feel some type of way that a teacher has to come to their house and help them out, and it's like you just don't want to be a special case. What do you got for me, wife?
There's lots of talking in your comment section, which is great.
I love the talking in my comment section, so keep doing it. So if we can't find questions, that's cool.
I know.
I love when everyone's helping each other out. It is the best. Kenneth G. Henderson is saying, what do you think about drugs being in schools? Been going around in your area recently, I've heard. So,
I think that was to us.
I think if that was to me, gosh, it's just like guns in schools, right? It's like there's a reason for it, right? Someone did it for a reason, right? Like some kid brought weed or crack or whatever they're bringing to school for a reason, and instead of just damning kids, right? Like, look, it should not be in school. It is dangerous. Even kids that I've had in the past, I had this dude who was one of my favorite dudes of all time, used to make cupcakes at home and bring them into school in a giant duffel bag and sell them in the bathroom. But the problem was everybody knew he was walking home with hundreds of dollars every day, and it just didn't make it safe. And now that's not the only reason I wouldn't want someone selling drugs in schools, because they're walking home with a lot of money and I'm concerned for their well-being, because drugs shouldn't be in school. But there's a reason those kids are doing that, right? They're not just doing it to be cool or hip, probably. They probably need it. They probably have zero food at home. They probably like are trying to help their mom pay rent. And so I think trying to get to the bottom of some of those situations sometimes is it's a more useful, a better use of your time than just like vilifying kids or damning them for the things that they do. It's always better to find out someone's story and meet them where they are and then bring them up to where they want to be, instead of just crushing them and like shipping them off to jail. Amy Russell is saying, first year teacher and coach of an academic club that goes to tourneys. Is that a tournament? I am deflated from pressures to perform at the level of the previous year's coach, and I don't want to grade or plan for the week. Jeez, is there a way? So first of all, don't be what that other teacher was. Like, you're not that other teacher. Maybe they need to have somebody else take that over. Like, I think first year teachers should just first year teach. They should not be doing anything else. Unless you like are super passionate about football and it comes second hand to you. But you should not be like running a club or doing a sport or coaching something that is extra work, because just learning how to be a first year teacher is hard enough. That's like if you were a first year parent, like you just had a baby and you're like, I'm gonna go get my master's also. It's like, no, one of these things is hard enough for me to do. I will just stick with that. So maybe have a conversation with someone. Look, it doesn't make you any less of a candidate to be a teacher at that school, right? So like teachers, especially first year teachers, want to take new jobs, they want to do all this great stuff, and they don't want to look like they can't handle it. But is it worth handling? Like if you're less of a teacher for it and your students are suffering for it, just let them know, like, look, this isn't a good fit. Like I can ride out this season or whatever, but like I want to be the best classroom teacher I can, and I just feel like this is like I'm spinning too many plates, and I'm just like, it's not it's not what's best for the students. You always make it about the students, and not yourself. I think people are far more likely to listen to what your situation is. Since Schmidt is saying, hi, I was wondering if you have a master's degree, and if so, do you work on it before it actually started teaching or while you were teaching? I don't. I would suggest doing it before you teach, just because first year of teaching is so difficult. I'm a community college graduate, woohoo! And then I went to a 4-year school in New Jersey that no one ever heard of unless you live in New Jersey, called Rowan University, which actually was a great place, and community college was a great place, but I didn't start teaching until I was 27, and then I had my son when I was 30, and so there's just hasn't been time for it. And now I do YouTube, which is like getting a master's degree from all these other wonderful people on here. What do you got for me, dude? J Me B, I think that's how it says. Your icon's just a giant J. Says, how have you ever had doubts about your ability to be a quote-unquote good teacher, and how do you get through it? Hell yeah, all the time, right? Sometimes I can't even believe that they let me in the classroom. I feel like a fraud, and I feel like every year someone's going to figure this out. They're going to realize I have zero idea what I'm really doing, because there's so many kids I feel like that fall through the cracks, or that like if I had just had more time, or if I just had more ability, or if I just had more resources, like I could really this kid, but I don't. And Brody is ready to come home. I'll bring him, Nate said. So it's, I feel like that all the time. And I don't always know how I get over that. You just keep going, because the students need you to show up. They need you to be consistent. So just keep going. And here's what I would do. I would think about, here's what you should do. Most of the teachers in your school, right, unless they're complete narcissists, do not know that they're doing a good job. On several occasions, I started doing this with my friend, Miss Yonkers, and then another friend of mine, Miss Maloney, started doing this for teachers. We'll, every once in a while, take 10 minutes in class. Everyone gets a note card, or like a simple greeting card. And then they just write a note to a teacher that they liked, that did something for them, right? That they did, like, Miss so-and-so always helps me out with my homework, and she's always willing to stay late if I need help. Or like Mr. So-and-so eats lunch with me every day, and I like when he brings in cookies. Or this person's really funny, or this person's really caring, or this person is like really hard and strict, but they're like no bullshit and they made me a better student. If you spend your time trying to fill other people up, it will make you feel like it gets rid of some of that stuff. And you are knowing that, like, the fact that you're feeling that is a sign that everyone else is feeling that too. So just saying nice things to other people is a really great move. So that's what I would do tomorrow, or if you have school not until Tuesday, like have your students like take literally 10 minutes. Here's our idea. We're going to make someone's day. I want you to write a teacher down. I want you to write in something nice that they did about you, and then I'm going to put those in their mailboxes, and I'm telling you, you will win at life if you do that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, are you just reading stuff now? You're just like in the cut, like reading comments.
No, I'm not. I have to sometimes I have to piece this stuff together. It's
I know.
a little hard.
You're doing a great job. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Hold on. Maybe we should have a commercial. A word from our sponsor. Tonight's live feed brought to you by, I don't know.
Oh, here, just read that one, because it's nice. Oh.
Piano Boy saying, hey Reynolds, you gave me advice last week on improving my student teaching experience. I used your advice and noticed a drastic positive change. Thank you.
Yay.
You just made me read nice words out loud. Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot, man. I really, really appreciate that. I'm glad that worked out for you. Lightning Storm Fights says, I have a student that's always late. Any suggestions? Take points off of his grade every single time he walks into your classroom late, and they are not recoverable, right? So like, I'm putting this video out this week about my point system for the week for participation, and my plan is I get 4 points a day, 20 points a week. If you are late to class, you lose a point off the top, and they're not recoverable, and you'll see kids they just like the word points. Everyone wants their students to be like intrinsically motivated, but the reality of the matter is that they're extrinsically motivated like the rest of us. And so saying that name point, like, hey, you're late again, man, just so you know, you're losing points every day when you do that. And then I would just make a note of it, and then at the end of the week in Power School anyway, which is our online gradebook system, you can put notes under grade. So I would say this was their grade for the week for points, and lost this many points because he was late this many times this week. That's it. Juan is saying, have you ever had a Fortnite dance battle in class? Just saying. So, I have not, Juan, but you have just literally inspired me to do so, because
your
everyone...
son will have a fit.
My son's
if you
head will
participate in this.
Babe.
Because he wants us to have a
Look, I am under no illusion. My people, the Reynolds, have like 2 dances. We have like the white guy dance where you like hold a lady's hips and she puts her hands up here like you're in 8th grade and you move back and forth, and this dance. That's it. That's all we got.
That's not.
That is literally, unless there's copious amounts of alcohol involved, those are the 2 dances. And with alcohol, they just become sloppy versions of those dances. But no, that sounds like an awesome idea, because last year at graduation, everybody Fortnite danced across the stage, so it was remarkable. Good work, Juan. I'm going to dedicate that one to you. Anything else?
I don't know if this is a question or not.
Which one?
This one.
Kate? The other one?
No,
Proverbs?
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 31 is saying, I'm student teaching and I'm pooping rocks. Pooping rocks on doing a lesson plan. Look, here's the thing. Don't poop rocks. This is because it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna have to go to the doctor. I think, look, do not recreate the wheel. There are lesson plans already available for whatever it is you're teaching, and it's not about the lesson plan. It's how you're implementing the lesson plan. Like, you could give the same lesson plan to 10 different people, and it is not going to look the same in their class. Like, it's just not. I have friends that I've like shared lesson plans with in the past, or there's like times when we have like several different English teachers for the 9th grade, and I know that all of our classes look different. We're all implementing that in some different way. Make the lesson plans simple, right? Where you're not like making them crazy is just a waste of your time. Make them simple, make them to the point, make them relevant, and make them measurable goals. Like, today we will be able to do this, 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 and this. That's it. And then just make it fun. Then your personality, your engagement, the silly little things you do before, during, and after class are going to be what makes your class engaging the most, and not just that. What's up, bro?
What's up?
Eagles are losing bad.
Eagles are losing bad, Brody's whispering to my wife. So that's what I would do. So don't sweat it. Just look for other stuff, and then you can tweak those lesson plans you find online, but don't recreate the wheel. It's just not worth it.
That's what she was saying, I guess, what she's nervous about.
Oh, and then she was saying to Kate, the sleepy teacher, integrating my ideas appropriately and staying on standards. By the way, do teachers have a creative license with standards and objectives? I think you can tweak anything. Like, look, I've had so much crazy stuff in my classroom that I've made into, like, I've had like DJs come in and street artists come in and other schools come in and partner with us, and there's always a way to kind of like figure it out.
Are you on live?
Yeah, some dude just suggested, this guy Juan just said I should have a Fortnite dancing competition in my class.
That's what I've been telling you to do that.
You have?
Yes.
Is your name Juan? Were you him on here?
Do I look like him?
You do have a mustache coming in.
You don't have to tell everything.
Gosh, I love you.
Sometimes.
Talking about God in schools, your thoughts? I stay away from it. It's too tricky of a topic, and it's not Like unless it's like a lesson. So like when we read Persepolis, we had to talk about like the Muslim religion and like how it related to the book. But overall, it's just like not. It's you're gonna at some point have some kind of run in with someone. So I just again like if that's your jam, I don't know why you would do that, but if it's your jam, like if God is your jam, then let that come out through who you are and through your actions and not so much your words.
I don't know how long. I don't know what time we started.
We're at 80 minutes. Okay. Proverbs is asking any ideas for teaching on standards with special education students who are extremely below grade level. I think you can scale down lessons for those students. So you just take away, like if you have everybody else doing 20 questions or 10 questions, give them like less questions. And then you are going to just continue to pivot, right? Like maybe you give them 5 and they get them done real fast. Maybe you give them 5 and they get them done real fast, but they don't have very thoughtful answers, or they're not written in complete sentences, or they're not complete thoughts. And then sitting with them and going, look, let's stick with 5, but like this, let's go through this and I'm going to explain to you like what a full thought would look like, or what an answer would look like. And then we're going to work through that together. And so I think it's about doing the same work, but then just like trying to figure that out. There's websites out there that you can use like different Lexile levels. So it'll be like, what the hell is that new system? What's that program we're using in school? Remember we went and had beers with those people in Chicago?
Oh.
Circa?
Yes.
I think it's called Circa, CIRCA. And they will have like an article on, I don't know, like the Million Man March or something like that, right? Or like I Have a Dream speech or something like that. And they can change the Lexile level based on your students, so that all students are getting like something that's like appropriate to their level.
Like Newsella.
Like Newsella, something like that, like where you can change that kind of stuff up, and it makes it better for your students. And look, talk to other teachers that are teaching this stuff too. Don't be afraid to ask questions, right? So like maybe like someone in the comment section, if you can connect with Proverbs and say like, hey, what are you teaching? Or this is how I teach it. Like, let's share those resources, and maybe you can find someone that's going to connect with you and can be able to like walk you through that specifically. Anything else?
Just a couple more.
Okay, couple more, and then we're going to get out of here because I want to watch the end of the Eagles game with Brody. You never talk about your textbooks. What textbooks you use in class? I don't use textbooks in class. We have textbooks. We have like the McGraw, like big fat orange textbooks, and they're fine. I'm not against them. I just don't have enough for all of my students. They're too big to carry around, so we just read novels instead. I know some people are like adamantly against textbooks, but ours are actually like pretty well written. They have thoughtful questions and thoughtful and like follow-up questions and connect like videos you can connect with them and stuff. So I think they're cool, but it's just like I'd rather read longer texts because it's stuff in the literary canon that I think my students are expected to know when they get to college. Like they should have read all of these books we're reading are things that they should have read in high school because they're always referenced back to. What do you got for me? Nellie Caroline is asking, when did you realize that building relationships with students was important? Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. I don't know that I ever realized it was so I would say this. I would say at first I was extremely nervous about it because I didn't want kids to think that I was their friend and not their teacher or their mentor. And so it's a tricky thing, but then when you do realize that like I'm not your friend, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, because that's like here for me. What I want is this. I want mentorship. I want connection. I want to be able to push you like a coach would, and not like, your friends don't always push you enough, but as if you're like a bit of an authority figure or someone that like is coming from a world of you're in the know, then you can help kids more deeply. And I think that was just innately what I wanted. I've always connected with young people, even when I was younger. I've told this story before, but like when I was even my son's age, and my son knows this is about himself now, it's like at 10 and 11, little kids at family parties or at the park would just come up and start talking to me and telling me things. And then as I got older, it happened more and more. And in my 20s, that was odd because it felt weird to be like a 20-year-old with like a mohawk and like little kids are talking to you at the park or at a party or telling you things that you're like, I don't know why you're telling me this. I just think it's, for me, is my gift. But as a teacher, that gives me the space to actually use that gift in full all the time. And so I have kids all the time come into my classroom and tell me the craziest shit that I never ever would dream someone would even talk to me about. And it's just my total honor to be able to have those conversations. So I think it was just something that was innately in me. But I had to start figuring that out my first year because it was just happening. It was like kids coming in and saying, I want to tell you this thing that I've never talked to anyone about, and I have to get off my chest. And it's like, all right. And my girlfriend cheated on me, and I don't know what to do. Like, all that kind of stuff just showed up.
Last question.
All right, last question is, and look, if I didn't get to your question, you can email me. I am trying to get through these emails. I am doing so many emails a day. It's just difficult to get through them. But you can email me, and I get back to every single person. But Donna Mathis is asking, it seems there is always extra help or attention to the very low students and the very high students. I was always a middle of the road. How do you help those kids who are the majority? Donna, that is a great question because my man, Rafe Esquith, I've talked about this before, talks about 3 kinds of kids. Number 1 kid is the kid that everybody wants to teach. They do a great job all the time and they make it a pleasure to be at school. Number 3 kid is crying for help all the time and wants all your attention by acting out, right? And that kid should get attention, but no more than number 2 student who flies under the radar, the kid that no one knows his name, the kid that nobody knows that they exist in the school, the kid that ends up with a 70 or a 69 at the end of the year because you didn't give them enough attention because they sat there quietly and behaved correctly. I think it is making an intentional effort to give no student more attention than another one. That if I'm working with a number 2 student and a number 3 student, it's like, Reynolds, I got to go to the bathroom. Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Reynolds. Just going, no, child, you don't get my attention right now. I'll be there in a moment. I need you to just cross your legs or hold your breath or whatever you got to do. I'm just working with this kid right now. And then that's how you get down with those kids. And I think making connections outside of the classroom, being visible in the hallway, talking to them at their locker, saying hello to them when they come in. Or a lot of times I will walk around the classroom and I'll put Post-it notes or cards on people's desks, right, of all the number 2 students. And then I'll say, hey, if anyone got a card at the end of the class or during class, I need you to come speak to me real quick on the side of the classroom. I'll have you out of here in just 30 seconds. I need to have a real quick word with you and you're not in trouble. Then when those kids come over, I will often tell them, like, look, I just want you to know that I notice you and that you're in my class and I could not be happier. But that, to be honest, it's hard to get around to everyone all the time. And you guys are just doing such a great job already. And I just want you to know that. I just want you to know that you're seen. And I want you to know that I appreciate you deeply. And if you ever need anything, please make the noise possible or just give me a nod or a word so that I can come and help you. And that goes really far, I think, to let the invisible kids know that they're visible. So that's where we're going to end it. Look, if you have any questions, like I said, email me. And anything else? I don't know. Hey, if you're from San Diego and I met you this week, it was awesome, man. I think I got a lot of potential speaking opportunities out of that. And if your school is ever looking for someone to come and speak about any number of things, building relationships, any of the crap that we talk about on here, I just think it's so important. And I would love to be able to have the opportunity to come and talk with your staff, talk with your students, talk to your admin, talk to your parents, your neighbor, whoever needs it. That's it, everybody. Peace. I don't even know how to stop this thing now because it's crazy and I don't know what to do. Do I just hit that thing? Look, my finger's in the way. All right, I think we figured it out. Go us.